Chapter 296 Formal Apprenticeship. What, old monster? Nobody said those words. With a greatly changed complexion, the young girl pushed this forward with a strong smile and hastily lowered her head, not daring to meet his gaze. Han Li chuckled and didn't bother with the young lady. Instead, he coldly looked at the old man. The old man appeared to have lost his head from fear. He truly didn't know how much Han Li heard from the previous conversation, so he couldn't help but inwardly complain without end. Now he didn't dare to speak his originally prepared excuse. I didn't think that Senior would arrive so quickly. This Junior believed Senior would arrive in a few hours at the very least. Let Junior take out that book for Senior. Without a choice, the old man could only cope with all his might against Han Li's unfriendly appearance. In a quick-witted move, he immediately mentioned the Taoist book in hopes that he could calm Han Li's anger. Fine, take it out. After staring at the old man with a sword-like gaze, Han Li eventually said this with a cold tone. This caused the old man to recover his wits. It seemed the other party wouldn't immediately vent his anger. The old man hastily agreed and walked to the neighboring room. When the young girl saw this, she moved her legs, also wanting to follow the old man, but the old man stopped her with his gaze. What kind of joke was this? If both people went to the neighboring room, then wouldn't they be deliberately angering the other party? It would cause Han Li to believe they were thinking of playing some sort of trick. The old man completely threw these impractical thoughts out, fearing Han Li would have a misunderstanding. The young girl could only remain in the room with a pout. She stood silently in her original place, keeping Han Li company. The old man's movements were very quick. In the blink of an eye, he walked over with a shabby wooden box that seemed to contain the Taoist book. Senior, the qi restraining technique we use as well as the other teachings of the books are within. Please take a look and see whether it has any use to Senior. The old man walked several steps toward Han Li and proclaimed this with a respectful appearance. He gently opened the wooden box, revealing a slightly blackened yellow leather book, and handed it over to Han Li. From a look, one could tell this book came from an ancient era. Han Li narrowed his eyes, and after looking at the book in the old man's hands several times, he nodded his head and received it. Although this book had changed color due to the passing of time, when Han Li touched the cover, it felt exquisitely smooth. Furthermore, it seemed extremely durable. It appeared that this book wasn't made from common materials and was instead made from the hide of some sort of demonic beast. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to remain intact for such a long time. Han Li lightly stroked the book for a moment, and after muttering to himself, he slowly flipped a page. After a few general looks, Han Li wrinkled his brow. When he opened this book, extremely unfamiliar and ancient characters entered his view. Han Li was certain he didn't recognize the marking of these characters. He also hadn't seen such markings from the collection at Yellow Maple Valley. Although he didn't recognize them, Han Li didn't waste his time, and he quickly turned through the pages. In the last 2 pages of the book, he discovered a set of nameless chants that appeared to have been added by someone. The characters used in this set of incantations were ancient characters more commonly used in the cultivation world, allowing him to easily read them. Han Li knew in his heart that this was the qi restraining technique, so he took the liberty to analyze it. After the time it took to eat a meal, Han Li slowly closed the book, and his face wore a thoughtful expression. Put on. Put on. The old man to the side felt his heart violently beat, but he didn't dare to breathe loudly. He knew this moment would decide the lives of him and his granddaughter, since Han Li would be revealing how he intended to treat the two of them. Han Li didn't pay attention to the old man's inwardly nervous attitude. Instead, he calmly took out a jade box from his storage pouch and properly put the book inside. Then, he turned his face towards the old man and said indifferently, "I will take this book. Tell me right now what items you two want in exchange for it. No matter what, I will fulfill your requests to the best of my ability." Han Li's voice wasn't loud, but when the old man and the young girl heard those words, it was as if they heard the sweet sounds of nature. At this moment, the two knew that not only were their lives saved, but there were also benefits to be had. They couldn't help but reveal pleasant surprise. "Senior, could you let us discuss it for a bit?" Now that the crisis had passed, the old man couldn't help but want to maximize the benefits from this exchange and immediately asked Han Li with a smile. Before Han Li arrived, the pair had been afraid they would be exterminated absolutely without any items being exchanged. But now that they heard Han Li's question, they were naturally caught unprepared. Furthermore, now that he realized Han Li wasn't a merciless, nasty character, the old man gathered the courage to ask a question. "Do as you wish. But you mustn't take too long." Because Han Li had acquired a set of very useful secret arts and a mysterious ancient book, he was in a good mood. He allowed them this chance to talk without paying much mind. "Many thanks for Senior's great favor. We will only take a short amount of time," the old man exclaimed with great joy. He immediately brought the young woman outside the room, and the two started to mutter in soft voices. When Han Li saw this, he faintly smiled. Although he could easily exterminate the two, Han Li wasn't such an evil and pointlessly vicious character. If he didn't need to, he wouldn't go back on his word. After a short moment, the old man and the young woman walked over with strange expressions on their faces, as if they were a bit worried. When Han Li saw them, he was a bit puzzled, but he still asked, "You two have decided?" "Senior, we have finished discussing. This one's granddaughter doesn't want any worldly possessions. Instead, we wish for Senior to fulfill our bold request." After a moment of hesitation, he said this with clenched teeth, slightly surprisingly Han Li. "What's this request?" Han Li wrinkled his brow and unhurriedly asked. He didn't know why, but at this moment, Han Li suddenly had a feeling that something troublesome was going to happen to him. After some more hesitation, the old man revealed a helpless expression and continued vaguely, Actually, this one's granddaughter greatly admires Senior's deep and profound cultivation and techniques. She wishes to become Senior's disciple and is willing to serve as Senior's attendant. As the sincere wish of this small old man and his granddaughter, we hope Senior will be able to take her as a disciple." Just as the old man finished stuttering these words, the clever young girl immediately paid her respects in front of Han Li and kowtowed, knocking her head loudly on the floor. Han Li simply had not predicted this would happen. After a moment of great surprise, he didn't know whether he should laugh or cry. To have him accept a disciple, was this a joke? He was still trembling from fear in face of the cultivation world and was never sure whether he'd be able to defend himself. Now he had to bring something to weigh him down. He certainly couldn't agree to this matter. Regardless, Han Li had to return to the main topic on hand. He could tell that the girl's aptitude shouldn't be poor, even if he hadn't carefully examined it yet. Otherwise, she shouldn't have been able to reach the 6th layer at such a young age. When Han Li was at that age, the only reason he had reached that stage was because he had the assistance of an insane amount of medicine pills. From this, it would be a pity for this young girl to spend her life muddling through starting line of the cultivation world. Although he couldn't take this young girl as a disciple, he could still introduce her to a master. He actually found the rare mischievous streak in her quite agreeable. He clearly remembered that the small old man, Senior Marshal Brother Ma, had yet to take in a disciple. Furthermore, Senior Marshal Brother Ma had once angrily complained that ever since Han Li left the 100 Medicine Garden, the old man had to personally look after the medicine garden when he could otherwise be taking care of more important tasks. Had the small old man known Han Li would leave the garden, he would have taken in an obedient disciple. This young girl before him appeared exceptionally intelligent. If her aptitude truly wasn't lacking, then there was no harm in introducing her to Senior Marshal Brother Ma as a potential disciple. As for whether Senior Marshal Brother Ma would be satisfied in taking in this young girl as a disciple, that had nothing to do with Han Li. With this thought, Han Li revealed a thoughtful appearance and caused the old man and the young girl to believe he was truly thinking of whether to accept her as a disciple, leaving them with excitement. "Come over here. Let me look at your spiritual roots." After some contemplation, Han Li waved to the girl and calmly said this. Yes, senior. The girl appeared extremely clever, and after respectfully answering, she nimbly walked in front of Han Li and took the initiative to hand over her slender, flawless white wrist, revealing a slight bit of shyness. Han Li lightly grabbed the young girl's jade wrist with his right hand and started to slowly circulate spiritual qi throughout her body. Not long after, he let go. Dual spiritual roots, truly good aptitude. Han Li muttered as he stared at the young girl's face. When the young woman and the old man heard Han Li's words, joy bubbled up from their faces and they believed that Han Li was about to accept her. But Han Li continued, suddenly saying, "Unfortunately, I don't take disciples. Otherwise, with your aptitude, I would definitely have accepted you." Han Li's words caused the grandparent-grandchild pair to feel as if cold water was being poured over their heads. They couldn't help but blankly stare.